Hi everyone, it's Bren here, and it's so good to be back again this week showing you around my garden. And I feel a lot more calmer today than I did last week when I was recording the video back then. Look, the really big bushfires are still going on here in New South Wales, and the Green Wattle Creek fire is still near my area. But the good news is the weather conditions have been a lot more favourable for the firefighters, who have worked non-stop 24/7 since I've seen you last, and they have been able to do lots of back burning and preparing the area for this fire that is going to come. So, it's a nice day here today. It's not too smoky, and I'm looking forward to showing you around. Now, the other big thing that happened this week was level 2 water restrictions came into effect, and the big change for me will be that we're no longer allowed to use a hose to water the garden. We can only use buckets and watering cans. So I think that will be interesting to follow me along and see how I get on with that. But before I talk a bit too much, why don't we just get into the video and let me show you around. So I'll start off today over here where I have some of my vine crops, and I also have this zucchini plant, which is a black zucchini. And finally I'm starting to get some on the plant now, and this one here looks probably big enough to harvest, but I might wait another day or two so that I have 3 of them, or even maybe 4 as well, and I'll be able to use them to make a zucchini slice. That's a really popular dish here with my kids. They love that, and it's really good to put in their school lunch boxes as well. And beside the zucchini I have this here, which is a pimply squash. Has a bit of a funny name, and these are green and gold squash that have like warty bumps on them, and they're meant to be really delicious. It's my first year growing them, so I'm looking forward to trying that one. Then over here I have a Queensland Blue, which is an Australian pumpkin. I have the Sweet Country watermelon, and there's some flowers on there as well. And then over here I almost lost this plant. This one's a Japanese futsu. Something kind of dug it up, but I put it back in and it seems to be all right now. And I've used this cloche over the top, which I've shown you before. This is actually an old lampshade. I just stripped off the top of the lampshade and cover it with some chicken wire just to protect the plant a bit longer. And then last over here I've got a Sapa rock melon, another new one for me. It's a bit slower to establish than the other plants, but it still looks nice and healthy. I still want to put a stake in between each mound so I know where to direct water. And I'd mentioned before that I was planning on kind of mulching around to kill off the grass, but look at that, I don't even need to kill it off because it's already dead. So that saves me having to do that job. And across from those vines I have this one here, which I believe is a Kajari melon, but I never ended up putting a name tag in there, which I'm a bit annoyed about, but I'm almost certain it's a Kajari melon. And then around here I have one more melon, and this one is Dolce de la Table. I don't know where I put the tag for that one. Oh, here it is. There you go. Delete de la Table. Okay, I said that wrong, but that's the name there. And yeah, it's looking good as well. And keeping things real here, this is a bit of a hot mess, this garden bed, which I haven't been doing a whole lot to. So over here you can see these are some self-seeded amaranths that are looking very sad. They definitely need a bit of a water. And beside there I should have shown you this a few weeks ago when it was in its prime, but this is my clary sage, my one plant that survived from autumn time when I sowed the seeds. And has anyone else grown this plant before? Because myself and my friend have been messaging each other about this plant because we both think it has the funniest, most peculiar smell. Does anyone else agree with me that it smells very similar to BO? I know that it's gross, but it has the weirdest smell. But I like it though, and the bees enjoy it as well, so I will be growing it again in my garden. And beside the clary sage, I have these plants which self-seeded from last year. So these are called chocolate Queen Anne's lace. You remember a couple of weeks ago I was showing you some of the false Queen Anne's lace, and these ones are quite different. They have more of the flower heads have more of a pinky kind of chocolatey colour to them. Loved just as much by insects. And I was happy to see these all self-seeding. I have some larger plants, and then down below these I have some smaller ones that will take over once these blooms are finished. So I've been showing you over the last year my Cape gooseberry or ground cherry plants. I tried to overwinter them, they were doing well, and then those 3 striped potato beetles came back. I managed to get rid of them, but unfortunately these plants are not doing well at all. There's no sign of fresh foliage, so unfortunately, oh wait, there's some there, but I don't know, is that actually worth keeping these in and trying to revive them? There's a lot of dead branches. I don't know, I might actually end up just pulling these out and maybe sowing some fresh seeds for this year. Okay, let's go and head around the back garden because there's a few things to show you around there. So around here I have some of my succulents which I display here in terracotta pots, and I finally started to give them a bit of attention this week. Some of these plants were looking awfully shriveled up and in much need of some TLC, so I'm going to be concentrating on trying to revive these now over the next couple of weeks. As I've been doing some clearing in this area, I discovered this plant which I forgot I put in probably last year. This is a Equilegia or a granny's bonnet. I think one of you guys mentioned it before as a nice plant to have in your garden, so I'm happy that I can show you this now. The blooms are almost finished. This is a lovely perennial plant often found in cottage gardens. I can't remember if I showed you this plant that I bought a couple of weeks ago. I get confused sometimes between what I put up here and what I put on my Instagram stories. So just in case I haven't shown you, I do want to have a quick look at this. So this is a lovely Australian native grevillea. I do have grevilleas in my garden, but a lot of them are kind of ground covers, and this one is more of a shrub. It grows 2 meters to 2 meters, and as I said before, this is the way my garden's going now. A lot more Australian natives. They're tougher plants to have, and especially now with these water restrictions, I just can't afford to have plants anymore that require too much water. And I'm just passing by the raised garden bed area. I showed you around here a couple of weeks ago, so I won't talk about it too much, but thank you for all those comments and advice and tips on how to deal with the slugs and snails in here. I did come out and try and find some snails at night one day this week, but I didn't find many at all. But I am going to come out again and see if I can find any, because apparently they come out at night time. And the other thing that I noticed here that's nice to show you are these cornflowers. I've got a few of them blooming there, and there's some little insect on that, a little beetle it looks like. I'm now further down the back garden, and this is what I need some advice with this week. It's my nasturtiums that are growing under the orange tree, and you can see there's still lots of lovely flowers on these plants, but they are looking so scruffy. Really leggy now, and a lot of dead foliage as well. So I'm not really sure what to do. Should I pull these plants out and re-sow some fresh seeds? Or I was thinking maybe what I could do is give them a trim and see if they kind of like bulk up again. I don't know, I'm not sure which one to do. I am mindful that if I put in fresh you know, fresh seeds, it might require a lot of water to get them going, but these ones have kind of already established. So maybe if I just give them a trim and a bit of liquid feed, it might boost them back to their full glory and fill this space here under the orange tree. I'm now standing on the opposite side, so I was up there and now I'm looking up in that area. A few things to show you here as well. I ended up transplanting some self-seeded, I think they're marigolds, these here, and I popped them in there, and they're the ones that I had last year. I think they're the French marigolds, and something really awesome happened. I found one of my cucamelon plants over here underneath this perennial basil here. I discovered it this week when I was just tidying up, and I was so happy to see this because in the other area where I had the cucamelons, they just didn't come back. So these are actually can be a perennial plant, and when I saw this I was chuffed. So now I need to try and build some kind of structure here to support the vines as they grow up. But how good's that? I'm going to have cucamelons again. The agapanthus is starting to bloom, so I have these white ones here, and out in the front garden I've got a whole row of the bluey purple ones. Absolutely love agapanthus. It has special memories for me. My oldest child was born at Christmas time, and he was like 14 days overdue, and towards the end of the pregnancy every day I had to go over to the hospital to get like daily checks, and I passed by this house that had hundreds and hundreds of these plants in flower, so these will always remind me of my youngest or my oldest child. So I haven't really touched on the strawberry patch in a while. I think maybe I'll be putting off telling you about my big disaster. I mean, but we all learn, don't we? So this was meant to be my strawberry patch, which I just put in autumn time. And the issue with it is that it just doesn't get enough sun. Because I have this big tree which is in my neighbour's garden that's pretty much doubled, if not tripled in size this year, and it's completely shading out this space. So, you know, it's a big mistake. I won't be getting any strawberries. Look at everything. Half the strawberry plants have died on me, but not to worry. I can plant it up with some shade loving plants. I haven't wasted my time. It just means I need to find somewhere else to put my strawberries. Beside the lemon tree and down here by the patch of dahlias and some other vining crops, I've got some cucumber plants in here. There's one there, and some pumpkins. I have some flowers of my Pandoria, which I saw for the first time a few years ago in my friend's garden, and since then I've bought a few of these Australian native climbing plants to have in my garden. And I also noticed that my plumbago is flowering. I love this one. I've seen a lot of people kind of make it into an informal hedge, but I've just got it as one plant here in the back garden. So I'm right up now by the back fence in this section, which is new this year, where I have some more tomatoes and some cut flowers. Because before I go, I want to show you these. So these are some self-seeded sunflowers that are blooming this week, and I want to finish off with a lovely cheery flower. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this week's look around the garden. I'm going to head inside now. One of my kids is a bit sick. He has croup, so I better go in and make sure he's all right and get him ready for bed. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you all again next week.